Hey everyone, my name is DD. I am your closet DM. Yes, I'm in a literal closet. Pro tip, if you're trying to record something, the cheapest and best soundproofing you could do is a bunch of clothes hanging up. And we also have some clothes here on the ground, so it's got a good dead sound to it. But just tell you a little bit about what this channel is going to be. I'm a dungeon master, game master, whatever you want to call it. I've been trying to figure out like what are the best bits of advice that I could come up with. I've watched a lot of other YouTube channels that get good advice, and stuff like that. But I had some other things I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to start with world building. So today we're going to talk about what do you do for the first steps of creating a world for your campaign, for whatever you're doing. And this might surprise you, and this might be duh to some of you, but I am going to be very simple. So all you don't need a fancy pants online creator. You don't need to subscribe to anything. All you need to do is buy yourself some of this. So this is just normal graph paper. You look at it's a graph paper. And then you're going to get yourself a pen. I'm using a Sharpie so you can see the lines here. I wouldn't recommend a Sharpie in real life, but that's what we're using here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start drawing shapes. Now, the first thing, if you have no idea where to start, you could just start scribbling. But what I like to do is you think of an actual place in the world. So like, the Mediterranean, or maybe you're thinking like the continent of South America, or something like that, or the Canada places. Yeah, Canada. I said Canada. Canada. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with we'll do kind of a northern continent that's not all encompassed in this map, and then we'll maybe do a sea, and then maybe some stuff down here. So I'm just going to simply draw a squiggle line and get some good cracks in there, there. You see that? So we just got this random shape, and that's going to be a landmass here. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to have another landmass. I'm going to put that right there. All right. Now we need some islands, so, a lot of times in between continents you have some islands of all different varieties. And so, yeah, we're going to sprinkle some islands in here. So we've got some islands. What's going on there? What's going on in those islands? Okay. And then maybe over here, we're going to have a large island. Kind of like in Australia, kind of going on here. You look, it's Australia. Okay, so I think that's a good start. So what we have technically 7 different places here. You got 5 islands, and then you got 2 major continents. Now, you're drawing squiggles on a piece of graph paper. What do you do next? I show you. So coming up with the name is kind of the next big step. Now, you may not know what to do when coming up with the name. He's like, do I just make up something random? So maybe if you need more help with that, you take a step back and decide who lives on each different place. So, this top continent here, north, you think of cold. What do you think of? Obviously you think of like the Vikings and all that crap. So why don't we say this northern land is just for, this example will be very stereotypical. We'll call this the land of the humans. And so what's a good human name for this land? And what are these humans about? I'll put a link down. I like to use fantasynamegenerators.com. Always is a great jumping off point. They use distinct types of names for each race and all the different places. And so it really kind of, if you want to be able to distinguish, names of one particular people from another, I like using them. It keeps you kind of in line. And then once you get the hang of it, you can tell what kind of things you can do with the different peoples. So we're going to go this northern continent, the land of the humans. We'd think of something, something that, something that, maybe some literal, kind of like a good English name. Why don't we call this, Ice, or how about Frostgart? And what is Gart? Who knows what Gart is? I was thinking Frostguard, but I'm like, hey, how about we just make this, we'll add a little flavor. So Gart, maybe that's a uniquely human word. So you don't have, you have your common word, and then you have your uniquely human word. So that's a fun little continent there. Now, who lives on the island? Who lives on the island? Maybe a bunch of elves live on the island instead of your stereotypical wood elves. What about it's a tropical kind of elf? Like, what do you, like if you have almost kind of like a Polynesian culture here, and maybe you want to call it something that kind of invokes that island culture. So how about we call this Matok? Kind of looks like Montauk, but it doesn't have the end, so it's Matok, and my handwriting's awful. Okay, so we have the island of the elves, of the tropical elves, and then we got this landmass down here. And this is a big place. So I think there's going to be multiple people here, and maybe we want to draw international borders here. So I'm just going to, let's have a, usually the best kind of borders are natural ones, especially if you're doing a fantasy setting. It's a little harder to distinguish lines that are just kind of arbitrary or set along a parallel, like the Mason-Dixon line. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing to impose on a fantasy world. So we're going to do a mountain range, and with mountain ranges, I just do simple little check, or not checks, I'm losing my damn mind. Little upside down V's. It was called carrots. I think that's what it's called in computer speak. Oh, I speak like a computer. Okay, so I'm just putting this mountain range down here. Very clumsy, put together. Now, if you want to be very correct scientifically with how your terrain is and stuff, obviously mountains, and this is a very dumbed down explanation, mountains come when two tectonic plates crash and shove the earth upwards, basically. So yeah, we have this distinctive mountain range here. And who lives on the left side? Who lives on this side? Let's see. Let's give this to. Let's have a warring fact. Maybe there's two. Maybe it's like the Balkans. Maybe it's like Yugoslavia. Maybe we have both gnomes and halflings here, and they're vying to see who is the best short person in the world. So let's see. We're thinking of something distinct, halfling, gnomes, like, we invoke the Balkans, so maybe some kind of Eastern European sounding name. Maybe we call this Dolsov. Dolsov. Ooh, what are we going to do in Dolsov, guys? We're going to see some gnomes and some halflings. Oh, boy. All right, so now we've done that. Now, who's going to live on the other side of the mountains? Now, the obvious choice is dwarves. Or you could do orcs. Let's do something different. We'll do the dwarves on the valley side, kind of the mountains, and the orcs are the ones going to be from the mountains. Okay, so the dwarves, everyone thinks Scottish when they think dwarves, and that's okay. I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, yeah, I hate hearing all the Scottish dwarves. Where'd they come from? They didn't come from Scotland. Not to point fingers at anyone in particular. But let's see. Let's think. So we got our kind of Anglo-Saxon up here. We have our kind of Polynesian, but of course that's more Native American kind of sounding name here. We have our Eastern European name here, and then let's see what haven't we touched? Maybe we go for a very Latin theme. So the dwarves in Latin, isn't that's kind of a neat thing you wouldn't think to put together, especially with the Scottish trope. So if we're going for a Latin term, I studied Latin a little bit. Latin's all about endings. So we can get like a real Latin ending, like bus, B-U-S, or bus, however you want to pronounce it. How about we call this, and you don't have to. Sometimes I like to make sure that none of my names start with the same, there's no repeats between the same names for the major countries, but that obviously doesn't matter in real life. Countries don't say, well, their country start with a B, so we have to choose a C. No, you don't have to do that. But C, let's go with that. Let's see. We have all. The other thing is we have all 2-syllable words here, so let's go for 3-syllable. So let's call this Corybus or Corybus. Coribus. Corybus, the land of the dwarves. The dwarves who like concrete and gladiatorial fighting, and was that a word? Did I make gladiatorial? Gladiating. They like to gladiate. So it's kind of got this neat Greco-Roman feel to it, or mostly Roman. You can Greek, you can make the argument, but whatever. But I like that as a thing. But maybe we'll save Greek and we'll move it to the Orcs of the Mountain. The Orcs of the Mountain. What's their story? They live in the mountains. They're orcs. Now, I always go for the orcs are not a tribal people. I like their civilization to be more advanced than that. A lot of people like to put them in kind of the war band, the hunter-gatherer, whatever it is. Let's see. I want the Orcs of the Mountain. Let's see. Let's make them. Let's go to Central Europe for this one, or maybe let's do Central Europe. And the reason I'm picking mostly European is because the languages I'm most familiar with, and that best translate to English. Let's see. So let's call this one. Let's see. Postrang. That R-A-N-G, the kind of hard guttural. Of course, I wrote the name right on the mountain, so you can't see that at all. Postrang. So, or maybe just strang. Strang. Got some strang. We'll go with it. We'll go with something like that. And the Orcs of the Mountain, they keep to themselves. And they like eating goats. Sure, it's canon now. Okay, now that leaves our islands. Who lives on the islands? Maybe this is kind of a catch-all. Maybe this is where these two meet, and they're fighting for the islands. There's always going to be a conflict for these waterways here. We can worry about the islands later. And then when it comes to our seas, think about who is exploring the area. The explorers always get naming rights. So are the humans the ones to explore? Are the elves the ones to explore? Or the dwarves, or the orcs, or I did that wrong. Dwarves, orcs, or gnomes, halflings. Who has the naval wherewithal, if you will? I'm going to give it to the elves. I like the idea of seafaring elves, and it kind of goes with the Polynesian theme. So the elves are going to name the sea. So this vast sea in between all these. Let's keep with kind of that Native American, Polynesian theme, and let's think of something. The the Mau Koi, the Mau Koi Sea. What do you think of that? Can you even read that? It's fun. It's different. What does Mau Koi mean? And this is when you can kind of get into your languages. So you can see, we'll stop there for naming things. What you can see is we've already developed a lot of story here. We know where people come from. We know the kind of civilization or culture they have, or like what we want to base it off of. And we've put in areas of potential conflict. Here we have a sea. Why is this sea called Malkoi? What does that mean in Elvish? We have this mountain range dividing the two nations. Have they been at peace because they haven't had to deal with each other? Do the orcs raid into both? Are they allied with one? This one is a hotbed for civil war. Is it going to happen? The islands, are they fighting over those? Are they Are they resorts? Can you go to a sandals here? No kids allowed. And up here we have our humans in the icy north. What areas do they inhabit? Do they go all the way up, or they just habit along the coast? So you can see the map really is the place where you can see a whole picture. You can see your map. You can see where people are. You can see what they're doing. And that way you are able to expand upon that. And you can see also, and your players can see, like the distance, the relationships. Now, what I like to do is each square on a piece of graph paper, I usually equate to 25 to 50 miles, depending on how big you want it to be. And that way you can also keep track of time. And I usually do, if they're booking it, maybe 25 miles a day, if they're just kind of like normal traveling. But yeah, so that's what I like to do when it comes to world development. I always start with my map. You just throw random shapes down on a piece of graph paper, talk about think over who lives there, how long they've been there. And once you establish the civilization, you can then move on the history of each civilization. How long have the humans been here? Is this a recent migration, or have they been there for millennia? Same with the guys down here. Did the gnomes live here first and then the halflings kind of came? Did they just show up one day by boat, kind of like the famous sea peoples that killed the Mycenaeans or drove them away? So there's so much you can develop just by making your map. And I've not seen a video yet from any of the YouTubers about map making as the first step in world building. It's what I use, and that's kind of the reason I started this channel. These tips that I don't hear anywhere else, but I use. And maybe I can help you guys out with your stuff. So yeah, that would be it for me today. Give us a like if you like the video. Share it with friends if you think I have something good to say. And yeah, this has been DD from the closet, and I'll see y'all later.